Good day. The recent summit between President Biden of the United States and President Putin in Geneva led to some expectations of a general improvement of relations between Russia and the United States, something which is generally and widely acknowledged to be necessary in order to achieve some degree of stability in Europe and in order to enable the United States to refocus its political energies on containing China in the Pacific. It's also been suggested that the decision by the United States and Russia to improve their relations at some level is also essential in order to control the nuclear arms race, where a new series of destabilizing weapons, especially weapons developed by Russia, are creating growing threats to strategic stability. Many people noticed that the joint statement issued by the Americans and the Russians at the end of the Geneva summit spoke about nuclear war as something which should never be fought and which can never be won. A formula which was used towards the end of the Cold War in negotiations between the Soviet Union and the United States, but which has recently and in recent years fallen by the wayside. It seems, incidentally, that it was the Russians who revived or insisted on reviving the use of this particular formula, and that the United States was initially resistant, but it was eventually brought round. Having said that, and welcome though all these initiatives to improve US-Russian relations no doubt are, it remains the case that the pressures to keep relations tense remain very strong, and that there are many people both in Europe and in the United States, and possibly, by the way, also in Russia, who do not welcome this improvement in relations and would like to see a return to the policies of confrontation which we have seen over the last 7 years. And the fact that the United States government has to some extent to appease these forces, at least those in the United States, is evident in a recent statement or recent comments by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, one of the major advocates, apparently, of a tentative détente with Russia, who has said that the United States is in the process of preparing a further sanctions package against Russia, this time connected to the events concerning the Russian dissident blogger Alexei Navalny and the Russian steps to close down his organization, which the Russians see as a foreign agent funded largely by the United States and operating on their territory. Well, the Russians have received news of this sanctions package with sour responses. There was an agreement at the summit that the US and Russian ambassadors would return to their respective embassies in Washington and Moscow, this being an initiative that the Russians had agreed to, apparently under some pressure from the US, at the Geneva summit. And already you can get a sense from some Russians that the decision to announce a further sanctions package, admittedly a pending sanctions package, somewhat undermines this agreement to return the ambassadors to their respective posts. It's probably not enough to wreck the initiative and momentum towards a general easing of relations between the United States and Russia, but the Russians will undoubtedly see it as an act taken in bad faith, and they will also conclude, rightly, that it is a further indication of the enormous opposition in the United States, especially to an improvement in relations, and to the fact that whatever improvement to relations does take place will not be long-lasting. Speaking for myself, I have to say, I was surprised that this decision was taken as quickly as it was. I wonder whether it was, to some extent, a damage limitation exercise following the revelation that in the run-up to the summit, the United States had frozen an arms delivery to Ukraine, which had previously been promised in April. That suggests, again, that the United States, or at least the US government, is finding it extremely difficult to mobilize or unite itself around a policy of seeking détente with Russia. I get the impression that the Pentagon is keen on the idea, as it wants to switch resources towards the Pacific and as it wishes to contain the growth of these very destabilizing new weapons that the Russians are fielding, weapons like the Avant-Garde hypersonic glide vehicle, and first and foremost the Poseidon nuclear-powered submarine drone. And I also get the impression that there is some support for these moves from other personalities within the US government, within the National Security Council, within possibly the Treasury Department and some of the economic agencies of the US government. But it is clear to me also that there is powerful opposition, probably centered on the State Department and on the CIA, which remains obsessively focused with a policy of confrontation with Russia, and which, in the case of the CIA, is probably concerned that assets that the CIA has long cultivated in Russia may be in the process of being rolled up. So it's difficult for the Biden administration to stick to this new policy for very long. And without a sense that the president is able to carry through this policy and bequeath it to his successors, it seems to me that it is likely that this policy is stillborn. Recently, in programs which I participated in on the Duran with my colleague and friend Alex Christoforou, and also with Robert Barnes, the brilliant US commentator and lawyer, we discussed these moves towards détente between US and Russia, and we gave them a time period of about 6 months to see whether or not they would become permanent. This sanctions announcement is frankly a bad sign, and it strongly suggests to me that this détente period may last no more than about 3 months, 6 months at most. Well, I hope I'm being a little overly pessimistic about this, but one can't, I think, be excessively hopeful either. And perhaps a realistic view is that the United States is very far at the moment from reaching that point where it is prepared to make realistic assessments about US national interests that are accepted by all parts of the US government and by the entire political class. Thank you very much for joining me for this short video on this important topic, but and I hope that it doesn't leave you unduly depressed. I look forward to you joining me in future programs, both on this channel and on our main channel, the Duran, where I do programs with my colleague and friend Alex Christoforou. Please also remember to check out Alex's channel, and please also remember to search us out on our new platforms, BitChute, Odyssey, and first and foremost, SuperU and Locals. Last but not least, please support us to the extent that you can on PayPal, Patreon, and Subscribestar, and also by coming to our shop and buying the amazing things that you will find there. Our great magic mugs, our hats, our hoodies, our sweatshirts, and all the rest. And thank you again for joining me on this program. And if you like this program, please remember to tick the like button to this video, and please also remember to subscribe to our channels. And thank you very much for joining me today, and I look forward to you joining me soon, and have a wonderful day until then.